There are moments in a marriage when something so small, a drawer left open an inch too far, a phone turned face down on the counter, tells you everything you've spent years refusing to believe. For me, it was a coat. Specifically, it was my husband's coat, hanging on the hook by our front door the way it always did, except that on a Tuesday evening in late October, I noticed the inside breast pocket was buttoned. Aaron never buttoned that pocket. In 4 years of marriage, I had never once seen him button it. He kept his transit card loose in there, his lip balm, sometimes a folded receipt he meant to expense. He said buttoning it felt fussy. I almost didn't say anything. That's the part I keep coming back to. I almost hung my own jacket over his and went to make dinner. Instead, I stopped. I don't know what made me reach into that pocket. Some instinct that had been building quietly for months, maybe. The late nights explained away by deadlines, the weekend team dinners. I was never invited to join. The way he'd started keeping his laptop bag in the car instead of bringing it inside. None of it was proof of anything. All of it, together, felt like a sentence I didn't want to finish. Inside the button pocket was a key card, the kind hotels use. The Fairmont downtown. Check-in date that past Friday. Check-out that Sunday. Aaron had told me he was in Kelowna that weekend for a regional sales conference. I put the key card back exactly where I found it. I went to the kitchen. I made pasta. I sat across from him at dinner and I watched him talk about a podcast he'd been listening to, something about behavioral economics, and I thought, how long have you been doing this? My name is Sarah. I'm 37 years old. I work as a forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm here in Vancouver, and until 8 months ago, I believed I had a good marriage. Not a perfect marriage. Aaron and I had our friction. We argued about money occasionally, about how much time he spent golfing, about whether we were ready to talk seriously about kids. But I thought we were the kind of couple that argues and repairs. I thought we were building something. What I didn't know, what I had no idea about, was that Aaron had been building something too, just not with me. His name is Aaron Whitfield. 41, Senior Director of Business Development at a commercial real estate firm called Vantage Pacific Group. Charming in a room, the kind of man who remembers your coffee order and your dog's name. He proposed to me on a hiking trail above the Capilano Suspension Bridge on a morning in September, and I cried, and I meant every word I said when I said yes. The woman's name, I would find out later, was Diane. She was 34, a marketing consultant Vantage Pacific had brought in on contract about 14 months before I found that hotel key card. She had a home office in Kitsilano and a professional Instagram full of branding strategy posts and flat lay notebooks. She sent Aaron voice notes. Long ones. I know because I eventually heard them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After the dinner with the pasta and the podcast, I went to bed early and said I had a headache. Aaron kissed my forehead and said to drink some water. I lay in the dark and thought very carefully about what I wanted to do. I am a forensic accountant. My entire job is to find the things someone is trying to hide. I follow money through shell companies and misattributed invoices and conveniently vague expense reports. I am, professionally speaking, very good at finding what isn't supposed to be found. I decided to use those skills. I didn't go through his phone. That felt too direct, too likely to tip him off if he had any kind of notification set up. What I did instead was something I'm more comfortable with. I looked at the money. We have a joint account for household expenses. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, that sort of thing. We each keep a personal account for discretionary spending. I had never paid much attention to Aaron's personal account beyond what he chose to tell me. But I'm on the household account, and I have access to the statements. I pulled them up the next morning while Aaron was at the gym. What I found wasn't dramatic at first. A charge to a restaurant on Granville Street I didn't recognize. On a night he'd said he was working late. Another charge, a week earlier, to a wine shop in Yaletown. Small things. Individually, nothing. But I'd been doing this job for 11 years. Small things, strung together, are rarely nothing. I requested paper copies of the last 6 months of our joint statements to be mailed to my office address. An old habit from before we married, I always kept work copies of financial documents somewhere separate. Aaron knew I did this and had never questioned it. Then I waited. The weeks that followed were the strangest of my life. I functioned. I went to work. I had lunch with my friend Gwen on Thursdays, the way we'd done for 3 years. I called my father on Sunday mornings. I made dinner. I watched television. I slept beside my husband with 6 inches of mattress between us, and a silence I was carefully maintaining. Aaron didn't notice anything was wrong. That, I think, hurt more than the hotel keycard had. The statements arrived at my office in early November. I sat at my desk after everyone else had gone home, and I went through them with the same attention I give client files. What I found over 6 months told a clear story. Restaurant charges on nights Aaron said he was elsewhere. A reservation at a bed and breakfast in Tofino in August. The weekend he'd told me his college roommate was visiting, and they were doing a guy's trip up island. Flowers from a shop in Kerrisdale on a Thursday in May. Not our anniversary. Not my birthday. I checked. I photographed every statement. I organized the records chronologically. I created a folder on my personal laptop encrypted that I labeled with a case number the way I would a client file. That's the thing no one tells you about discovering your husband is cheating. The hardest part isn't the pain. The pain is there. It's enormous. It sits on your chest at 2 in the morning like something physical. But the part that takes the most out of you is deciding what to do with what you know. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not Gwen. Not my sister Helen, who lives in Calgary and would have driven here immediately if I'd asked. Not my father, who'd always said he liked Aaron, but in the way you say you like a weather forecast. Politely, with reservations. I needed to know more before I could decide anything. The opportunity came in late November. Aaron came home on a Wednesday evening and told me, very casually over takeout Thai food, that he had a work trip coming up. Portland, Oregon, 3 days. There was a commercial real estate conference. NAOP, he said, the annual Canada-US Cross-Border Summit. He had to fly down Thursday morning and he'd be back Saturday night. He was calm. Detailed. He had the name of the conference, the hotel the team was staying at, a self-deprecating joke about how boring commercial real estate conferences are. He was good. He had always been good. I said, of course, sounds fine. I'll text Helen. Maybe she can come visit. He said that would be nice. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already looked up NIOP's annual conference schedule. It was in Toronto that year, not Portland. I had 3 days. I want to be precise about what I did and didn't do in those 3 days, because I'm aware of how it might sound. I didn't hire anyone. I didn't do anything illegal. What I did was use the tools I had. My professional training, the financial records I'd already compiled, and access to one account that Aaron didn't know I had access to. When we first opened our joint account, the bank's system had linked all associated profiles to the same secure messaging portal. Aaron's personal account, technically, was accessible to me as a co-applicant on our mortgage. He'd never changed that. I'd never mentioned it. I'd discovered it by accident 2 years earlier and had never used it, because there had been no reason to. I had a reason now. I didn't transfer anything or touch anything. I looked. Specifically, I looked at the last 2 weeks. What I saw confirmed what I already suspected. There was a charge, the previous Monday, to a travel agency on West Broadway. And there was a second charge, to the same agency, made from a different personal account. One I didn't recognize. I cross-referenced the account number against what I could see in the portal metadata. The name associated with the second account was Diane Beaumont. They had booked travel together. Through the same small travel agency, on the same day, from separate accounts. 2 passengers, I would later confirm through publicly available booking reference patterns I know from fraud investigation work, on the same itinerary. Not Portland. Whistler. They were going to Whistler. I sat with that for a long time. Then I went to our storage room, where Aaron keeps a rolling carry-on bag that he uses for short work trips, and inside the front exterior pocket, tucked behind the mesh divider, the way he always stashes things he doesn't want to forget, I found a printed hotel confirmation. The Needle Lake Lodge. 2 guests. Check-in Thursday. Check-out Saturday. My name was not on that confirmation. I took a photo of it. I put it back exactly where I found it. I thought about what to do for the rest of that evening. I called Gwen, but I didn't tell her why I was calling. We talked about her renovation and whether her contractor was going to make the December deadline. I made tea I didn't drink. I sat at the kitchen table long after the tea went cold and I looked at our wedding photo on the shelf across the room. We'd framed the one from the ceremony. Just the 2 of us on the steps of the venue in Gastown, October light coming through the trees. And I thought about the woman I was in that photo. What she knew, what she didn't. Then I had an idea. It wasn't a vindictive idea, or maybe it was, a little. But more than anything, it was a precise idea, the kind of solution that comes from spending a decade building evidentiary trails. Aaron's carry-on was already packed. He travels efficiently. He'd had it ready since Tuesday. I'd seen it in the hallway outside our bedroom. He always packed the confirmation paperwork in that front exterior pocket so he could grab it quickly at check-in. I took the hotel confirmation out of his bag. In its place, I put something else. From the locked drawer in my home office, where I keep physical copies of our financial documents, I pulled the 6 months of joint account statements and organized. Every highlighted charge, every cross-reference date, every line that corresponded to a night Aaron had been working late, or at a conference, or up island with the guys. I paper-clipped them together. I added a single sheet on top, the photo I'd printed of the Nita Lake Lodge confirmation, with Aaron's name and Diane Beaumont's name clearly visible. I folded everything into a neat stack, placed it in the front exterior pocket of his carry-on, and zipped it shut. Then I moved the carry-on from the hallway to the closet and said nothing. Thursday morning, Aaron kissed me goodbye at 7:45. He said he'd text when he landed. He grabbed the carry-on from the closet without looking inside the front pocket. He was running a few minutes late. He gave me a distracted smile at the door and said, "Don't forget the recycling goes out tonight." I said I wouldn't forget. The moment the door closed, I called in late to work, sat down at the kitchen table, and thought about what came next. He texted at 9:12, "Boarding soon. Have a good few days." I didn't reply for about an hour. When I did, I wrote, "Safe travels. I think you left some papers in your carry-on that you'll need to look at before you check in." He replied almost instantly. "What papers?" I wrote. "Check the front exterior pocket, the one behind the mesh." Then I turned my phone face down on the table, and I made myself a proper breakfast for the first time in weeks. Scrambled eggs, sourdough toast, the good coffee from the bag we'd bought at the market in Granville Island the weekend before. I sat and I ate it slowly. My phone, when I picked it back up, had 14 messages, 3 missed calls, a voicemail. The messages went from confusion to alarm to something that read, even through text, like barely contained panic. He'd apparently waited until he was at the gate to open the front pocket. He'd found the statements. He'd found the confirmation with both names on it. His last message said, "Sarah, please call me right now. This is not what it looks like. I need to explain this." I called him back. He answered before the first ring finished. "Sarah, listen." "I'm listening," I said. "I've been listening for months, Aaron. I just didn't have the right material." The silence that followed lasted long enough that I heard an airport gate announcement in the background. Portland. Vancouver International, outbound to Portland. The flight he'd told me he was taking. "I don't know what you think those documents mean," he started. "I'm a forensic accountant," I said. "I know what documents mean. I've organized those statements very clearly. The dates are highlighted. If you'd like to walk me through each one and explain where you actually were, I'm happy to have that conversation." Another silence. "Diane and I," he began. "I know about Diane," I said. "I know about the Fairmont in October. I know about the bed and breakfast in Tofino in August. I know about the travel agency booking you both made 3 weeks ago for Nita Lake Lodge. I know because I'm good at my job, Aaron. I've always been good at my job." I heard him exhale, a long, deflating sound. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "Right now? I want you to figure out what you're going to do about the next 3 days, because I'm not going to manage that for you. When you get back, I want us to meet with someone. Separately, lawyers, I mean, not a counselor. I'm past the counselor stage. Sarah, I also want you to understand something." I made sure my voice was even. I had practiced being even. "The financial documentation I've compiled goes back 6 months. It's organized, it's detailed, and I have copies stored in multiple locations. I want you to understand that not because I'm threatening you, but because I want you to know what the situation actually is before you decide how you want to proceed." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "That's very methodical." "Yes," I said. "It is." He missed his flight. Or maybe he didn't take it at all. I don't know. I didn't ask. What I know is that he called me again 2 hours later from what sounded like a departures lounge, and his voice had shifted from panic to something that sounded like genuine, exhausted shame. "How long have you known?" he asked. "I found your hotel key card in October," I said. "The Fairmont one." He didn't say anything. "I've had a lot of time to think," I told him, "and a lot of time to put things together. I want you to know that I don't hate you. I'm not interested in making this ugly. But I also need you to understand that I am not the person in this marriage who should feel ashamed, and I will not be conducting myself as though I am." There was a long pause. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay," I said. Gwen came over that evening. I finally told her everything. She sat on my couch with a glass of wine and listened to the whole story. The key card, the statements, the travel booking, the carry-on. And when I finished, she put down her glass and looked at me for a moment and said, "You put the bank statements in his bag." And the hotel confirmation, I said. She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that has something else underneath it. Relief, maybe. Or just the release of tension that comes from hearing a story resolve the way it should. I cannot believe you, she said, and she meant it as a compliment. Helen came down from Calgary the following weekend. We went to a mediator. Not because Aaron and I had agreed to anything yet, but because I wanted to understand my options before I walked into any room with any lawyer. The mediator, a woman named Lorraine, told me I was one of the most prepared clients she'd met in an initial consultation. I told her thank you, that I'd had some time to get organized. The process that followed was not simple or fast. Mediation in British Columbia is not a shortcut, and we didn't have a prenuptial agreement, which complicated things related to the condo we'd bought together 3 years earlier. But I had documentation. I had financial records. I had, as it turned out, a very clear picture of the shared assets and what had been drawn down from joint accounts during the period in question. Because I had been keeping those records all along, for reasons I didn't fully understand at the time but understood now, Aaron did not contest very much. I think in the end he was tired, and I think he understood that contesting things against a forensic accountant who had 6 months of organized evidentiary documentation was not a position that was going to go well for him. Diane, as far as I know, is still doing marketing consulting in Kitsilano. I have not looked her up. I made a decision early on that she was not the center of this story. Aaron was my husband. Aaron made the choices he made. The rest is detail. My father called me the night Aaron moved his things out. He'd known for about 3 weeks by then. I'd told him after the mediation was underway, when I knew what the shape of things was going to be. He said, I always thought he was a bit too smooth, you know. I laughed. I said I thought so too, in retrospect. He said, how are you doing, really? And I thought about it honestly, before I answered. I'm okay, I said. I was so focused on the process for so long that I think the feeling part is catching up with me now. But I'm okay. He was quiet for a moment. You did the right thing, he said. The whole way through, I put bank statements in his carry-on, Dad. That's what I mean, he said. I moved back into the condo after the separation was formalized. We'd agreed I'd take it. He'd take the equity buyout, which was straightforward given that I had the more stable income and had been the one managing the mortgage payments for most of the year anyway. I repainted the bedroom a color called sea salt, a pale blue-gray that's not dramatic, but is exactly right. I bought new duvet covers. I rearranged the furniture so the room felt different. Gwen helped me with the rearranging. She moved the dresser 3 times before we got it right. We ordered pizza and ate it on the floor because the table was still pushed into the corner and we couldn't be bothered to move it back. It felt, for the first time in a long time, like my apartment. My space. Something I'd claimed for myself, instead of something I was sharing with a version of a life that had never fully been what I thought it was. I'm not going to tell you I have everything figured out. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't still hit me sometimes, late at night, that the person I thought I was building a future with was building something else the entire time. That part is real. The grief is real, even when the anger is justified. But I will tell you this. I know who I am. I have always known who I am. I am someone who pays attention, who documents what she finds, who does not make accusations without evidence, and does not back down when she has it. The carry-on is still in the storage room. Aaron forgot it when he moved his things out, and I haven't thrown it away yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll donate it. It's a perfectly good piece of luggage. But sometimes I walk past the storage room and think about the moment I stood there in November, in my own home, holding a stack of bank statements and a printed hotel confirmation. And I made a choice about what kind of woman I was going to be on the other side of this. I made the right one.